Okay, let's talk about a huge challenge for any business today. How does a company actually speak to the world? I'm not just talking about letters and emails. I mean, how do they shape their identity and communicate with millions of people all at once? Before we dive into this critical subject, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more expert breakdowns.
Here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at that fundamental challenge of communicating on a massive scale. Then, we'll get into the two main tools companies have at their disposal, earned and paid media. After that, we'll unpack the blueprints for using them right, and to wrap it all up, we'll see how some of the biggest brands make it all work in the real world. Ready? Let's get into it.
So first things first, let's set the stage. Think about a global brand. How do they make sure the message you get in London is the same one someone gets in Mumbai or Tokyo? That's the core problem we're talking about.
And this quote right here, it absolutely nails it. Pepe Jeans isn't just selling you a pair of jeans, right? They're selling you an attitude, a whole identity. That's the real challenge for any big company, getting past just selling stuff, and instead communicating one powerful, consistent idea to millions of people.
So if you're a company trying to speak to the world, what's actually in your toolbox? Well, it really boils down to two main ways of thinking, two very different approaches for getting your message out there. Let's start with the press release. You can think of this as the foundation of what we call earned media. The whole idea isn't to buy ad space, it's to earn that space by creating a story that's so interesting, so newsworthy that journalists actually want to cover it. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because you're looking at a fundamental trade-off. With earned media, like a great press release that gets picked up, you get massive credibility. I mean, people see it as news, not an ad. The catch? You give up control. But with paid advertising, you control every single word, every image. The downside, of course, is that your audience knows you paid for it, which can affect how believable it is. The smartest companies, they find a way to make both work together. And that takes us over to the paid side of things, corporate advertising. This is a pretty fascinating tool because you're not trying to sell a specific product. No, you're trying to sell the company itself. You're selling its values, its reputation, its whole identity. The organization literally becomes the product. If you are finding this detailed analysis helpful, a quick like and subscription helps us create more in-depth learning resources like this. Okay, so we've got our two main tools in the kit, earned media and paid media. But just having the tools isn't enough, right? You need to know how to use them. So let's check out the blueprints for building a message that actually lands. So let's start with earning that media attention. You have to imagine an editor's inbox. It's just flooded with press releases every single day. So how do you make yours the one they actually stop and read? You see, a good press release isn't just a boring announcement. It has to work like a cheat sheet for a busy journalist. It needs a hook, that dramatic opening sentence. It has to answer all those key questions up front. Who, what, where, when, and why. And crucially, it has to explain why anyone in the community should even care. You're basically doing the reporter's initial homework for them, making their job way easier. Now, let's flip over to the advertising blueprint. If you're going to pay for your message to be heard, you better have a solid plan for persuading people. And that's where a really classic psychological model comes in handy. This is the famous AIDA format. It stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. Think of it as a four-step journey you guide your customer on. First, you have to grab their attention. Then you build interest by telling them what's in it for them, your unique selling proposition or USP. From there, you stir up genuine desire, making them feel like they really need it. And finally, you give them a clear action to take, like buy now. This old slogan, it's a perfect, punchy example of creating desire. It's not selling you on screen resolution or speaker quality, nope. It's selling you social status. It taps right into a powerful human emotion, making the TV about way more than just a piece of electronics. All right, we've covered the theory and the blueprints. Now for the fun part. Let's look at how some truly iconic brands have put all this stuff into practice, using corporate advertising to shape how we see them in some really clever ways. This table just shows you how flexible corporate advertising really is. It's not a one-trick pony. It can be used defensively, like when Coke had to manage that pesticide controversy. It can be super practical, like when Kentucky Fried Chicken just decided, hey, let's just be KFC. Or it can be about linking your brand to something positive, like the UB Group's campaign against drunk driving. And when we talk about product advertising, well, it just doesn't get more legendary than the Marlboro Man. This campaign is a masterclass in the power of a single powerful visual.
For decades, that rugged cowboy created this unbreakable brand image of masculinity and freedom, and it barely needed any words to do it.
So, what's the bottom line here? Let's tie it all together. External communication is really a strategic balancing act. You've got earned media, which builds that deep, authentic credibility, and you've got paid media, which gives you complete control over your message. The brands that really succeed, they don't just pick one, they masterfully weave both together to build their identity in our minds.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer. I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. In the world we live in now, just flooded with messages from all sides, what do you think is more powerful? The hard-earned credibility of a real news story, or the brilliant creativity of a perfectly crafted ad? Something to think about. Thank you for watching. If you master this concept, show your support by liking the video and subscribing before you go.